keyboard that physically splits in half might sound like just another wild Asus experiment, but the Falcata is more than that. It's not a traditional keyboard, not a gamepad either. It doesn't really fit into any known category, and that alone makes it very interesting. When it first arrived, I honestly thought I would test it, move on, and forget about it. But the longer I used it, the more it made sense. Especially if, like me, you're always looking for more room for your mouse hand. At its core, it's 75% layout keyboard, but it can also function as standalone left half. No cables, no compromises. A true wireless co-op keyboard, something we haven't really seen before. It's not, of course, perfect. The price is high, the software still feels unfinished, and the few design choices seems like they were made at 3 AM. But no other keyboard really offers what this one does. I've used the Falcata intensively for 2 weeks in games, editing, writing reviews, and everyday tasks, and here are my thoughts from that experience. When I opened the box, it felt like Asus was shipping something far more serious than just a keyboard. Every component was packed separately in its own compartment, like someone said, more layers means or equal more premium. I wasn't sure if I was unboxing a keyboard or about to build a Lego set. Inside both halves of the keyboard, of course, but also an entire arsenal of accessories. You get two link cables, one shorter, one longer, depending on whether you plan to use the keyboard connected or split apart. The labels can be removed, but you won't confuse them. The charging cable is much longer and clearly different. There's also USB-C dongle for wireless use, a USB-A adapter if you don't have Type-C port, and a solid USB cable for charging or direct wired connection. You even get an Allen key, a nice touch since most people already have flathead and Phillips screwdrivers, but not something this tiny. Asus also includes a keycap puller, not uncommon, but it's always nice to see that nothing was overlooked. There are two separate palm rests, one for each side of keyboard, and they are different. Metal base for sturdiness, rubberized top layer for grip and comfort, and most importantly, they can be removed and washed very easy. They screw directly into the keyboard and the screws are very tiny. What bugged me a bit were the rubber caps that cover the screw holes when you're not using the palm rests. They fall off way too easily. I'm pretty sure I have already lost at least one under my desk. One little bonus that I really appreciated, Asus includes a replacement control key. By default, the keyboard comes with a copilot key. Yes, sometimes though that was a good idea, but thankfully you can swap it out. And personally, I will take control all the day. And we can forget the fit. You get 4 short and 4 tall ones, which you can mix and match however you like. Rise the inner edges, tilt both halves, or keep them flat. They screw in easily, click into place, and feel really solid. In the end, the packaging might look chaotic, but everything has its place and purpose. Nothing feels like filler. It's like the keyboard is saying, come on, assemble me and let's go. Okay, Falcata feels like a product that can decide if it wants to be minimalist or futuristic. 2 separate bodies, magnetic connectors, rubberized palm rests, and a solid metal base, all of it signals that Asus didn't cut corners on build quality. It looks serious on the desk even when you're using only one half of keyboard. Aesthetically it's neutral, not trying to scream gamer in traditional sense. There's RGB lighting, but it's subtle and functional. Still, I wish the keyboard looked a bit more lively. Every key is pitch black with 0 accent keys. Even the optional control key doesn't break the overall generic visual impression. A splash of color or some recognizable ROG flair would go a long way in giving more personality to such a functional, unique keyboard. On the left edge there's a clickable rotary knob and a dedicated mode switch button. These allow you to tweak key settings without launching any software, volume, lighting, action point, rapid trigger sensitivity, and so more. There's also a custom slot you can assign to any function via software, which means you can fine-tune your setup even mid-game. Build quality is solid, the joints are tight, the plastic doesn't crack, and the metal base adds welcome weight and stability. When connected, the halves snap together magnetically, though not too firmly, so if you nudge the keyboard from one left corner, it can come apart. Not a big deal, but definitely something that could be improved in potential Falcata 2. The shape and angle of each half are customizable via interchangeable feet. They come in two heights and let you angle the halves slightly inward or outward, a small detail that makes a big difference here, especially for proper touch typesist. It doesn't look like your typical ergonomic keyboard, but it's definitely moving in that direction without sacrificing style. PVD keycaps are solid, resistant to wear, feel great under your fingers, the top surface doesn't attract fingerprints and doesn't slip. The layout is classic for 75% keyboard with just enough space between keys for accurate typing and no real learning curve here. Falcata's design doesn't try to impress though looks alone. It's build around functionality and it works. With just a few more aesthetic sparks, it could go from interesting to iconic keyboard. Falcata supports everything you would expect today: wired mode, Bluetooth, and 2.4 GHz wireless. But what really matters is how these modes work in practice. The left half of the keyboard is the brain, let's say the brain. It can work completely wireless all on its own. In real world use, this means you can play FPS games using only the left half, freeing up maximum space for your mouse. The right half, however, must be physically connected via cable to function, and not just any cable but the included link cable, one of them. We have already mentioned that the box includes two versions, one short and one long, which is great depending on whether you're using the keyboard in split or join mode. The longer cable is perfect for the split setup, while the short one keeps things tidy when the halves are connected. Okay, downside. If you want to use both halves, Falcata isn't truly wireless. The left side works independently, like I said, but the right side won't function without that link cable. Personally, I keep the cable plugged into the right half at all times so I can simply snap them together when needed. Asus explained this design decision as a compromise to maintain a full 8K polling rate. Both halves would need separate receivers or a much more complex design, so they opt for simplicity and performance over complete wireless freedom. Asus also strongly advised not to use the link ports for anything other than connecting the keyboard halves. Do not try to charge your phone with them. What about battery life? Surprisingly impressive. With RGB turned off, you can get over 200 hours of use in the so-called gaming zone, which will be covered in more detail later. The keyboard only activates 8K polling on specific keys that you choose in the software. That means you do not need to run the whole board at max polling rate, saving battery while keeping peak responsiveness where you need it most. One more thing I really appreciate: you can check battery status directly on the keyboard per side with no software needed. Switching between devices is also smooth as well. Falcata remembers up to 3 Bluetooth hosts, and switching between them is fast and reliable. I must admit, I'm not usually a fan of split keyboards, but Falcata quickly became a natural part of my daily setup. The left half works completely on its own, and I have often used it like a gamepad for FPS titles. It has enough keys, offers a ton of mouse space, and doesn't feel like a compromise at all. But it's not just for shooters. Falcata turned out to be surprisingly capable for MMOs as well. Anyone who knows me knows I played retail World of Warcraft pretty seriously. High Mythic plus keys, Mythic raids, multiple classes, both healer and DPS rules, and if I can say that the left half was enough with over 30 plus key bind, chances are it will be enough for you too. I do miss the numlock key, which I used to outrun for years, but that's more of a personal habit than a real limitation, and 75% keyboard do not have numlock function. Okay, yes, the keyboard is physically split, but it's functionally split too. If you type properly using correct finger position, you can use each half independently without any issue. If you're more like me and let your fingers roam across the row, you will need some adjustment time. The spacebar is also split in two. It feels a bit strange at first if your thumb lands right in the middle. There's an actual gap there, but if you use each thumb properly, left and right, it feels really natural. You get used to it quickly and stop noticing it altogether. Key responses and speed are top notch. Every input is fast and accurate with zero lag in any mode. Asus 8K polling rate and speed Nova wireless tech aren't just marketing buzz, they do make a difference in real use. One thing that still puzzles me is the rapid fire switch. It's physically separate, almost like a toggle, but its function is really basic. I don't quite get why it had to be a dedicated hardware switch. It feels like something that could have been handled with a simple keyboard shortcut. If you write thousands of words a day, you will instantly notice a smallest discomfort in keyboard. That's why I was pleasantly surprised when the Falcata felt familiar with the first few hours, like coming back to something you have already mastered. The Hall effect switches here provide a linear feel, but not the mushy kind. They are stable, with a clean bottom out and featherlight entry. With just 32 grams of actuation force, sensitivity is high, but the calibration is so precise that you do not need accidental press. Your fingers just glide there. The sound is an even bigger surprise. The keyboard is quiet but not sterile. I mean, talk is the word, deep, dampening and clean. And that's not just thanks to Hall effect switches or PVT caps, it's the internal construction. Beneath the chassis you will find the multi-layer dampening system, a base silicone mat for general isolation, followed by a porn switch pad that absorbs vibration at the source and prevents them from reaching the PCB. Then comes an additional structural layer for plate stabilization, and finally another silicone layer that eliminates internal echo. Together they make the keyboard feel monolithic, even though it's physically two separate halves. Want to go deeper? Features like dynamic keystroke let you bind one function to initial actuation and the second to bottom out. It's not for everyone, but for power users it's a game changer. Same goes for speed tap and mod tap, advanced features that open the door to a complete custom experience if you are willing to experiment. Rapid trigger on the other hand is a standout for gamers, allowing for ultra fast reset the moment you lift the key. It works flawlessly, but it's a bit odd that such a software based feature has its own physical switch. Sure, it gives you a clear visual indicator when it's on, but was it really necessary? For daily typing, the experience is fantastic. The tactile feedback, sound profile, and stability are all top tier. The Falcata doesn't budge on the desk even if you are using only the left side. The Falcata runs on GearLink, a new software platform designed to replace the familiar Armoury crate. This idea behind it sounds great. A lighter app, streamlined interface, and faster access to advanced features like Hall effect customization, macros, and lighting control. In theory, it's power horse, but in practice, GearLink is still in beta, and it shows. The interface looks clean and modern, but it's sluggish. Sometimes menus fail to load correctly, and changes don't always reflect on the keyboard right away. RGB color selection feels imprecise. What you see in the app doesn't always match what you show up on the keyboard. Certain lighting modes do not activate properly after switching, which creates confusion here. Advanced features on paper are impressive. Tap versus hold commands, dynamic keystroke, rapid trigger per key, speed tap, and so on. But many of these features just do not work reliably, at least not yet. Some users report that customizations don't persist after rebooting, and GearLink currently lacks a proper macro system. You can record basic macros directly on the keyboard, but detailed macro editing through the software is missing. There are other odd limitations. For example, certain settings like configuration, the rapid fire toggle are only available through GearLink, but even then they're underdeveloped. Even assign basic key combos like Control plus let's say S isn't possible. That feels like a glaring omission for a keyboard this advanced. The upside, you don't need the GearLink to fully enjoy the Falcata. Most core features and even advanced can be adjusted directly on the keyboard using the physical control wheel of the left side button, and LED indicators. From actuation point and rapid trigger sensitivity to lighting and volume. You can tweak all of it without ever opening the beta application. That's why we would say GearLink has a huge potential, but in its current state it doesn't match the high standards set by the Falcata hardware. If Asus manages to iron out the bugs and finish the experience, it could be fantastic tool. But right now it's more of a work in progress than a finished companion. The ROG Falcata isn't a keyboard for everyone, but if you know why you need a split design, there's hardly anything better out there. It's perfect for those who, let's say, want more space for the mouse or their hand, rely on their keyboard for both gaming and serious daily use, and appreciate advanced features without compromising wireless performance. It's not without flaws. The software still isn't finished, the magnetic lock between halves could be stronger, and the price is tap. But what it offers, it delivers like no other keyboards on the market. If you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe. If not, no worries. Thanks for watching and see you soon.